It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour with
The Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life on this Monday, February 8th, 2016. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani inside our New York City studio. I come to you today a very happy man, my friends. Yeah, it's cold outside. Yeah, it's snowing outside, but there's a lot of excitement in the air. First things first, it's Monday. We get to do the show. That makes me happy. It's good to be back, and I am praying to the podcast gods. If you want to call us a podcast, quite frankly, okay, it's a podcast. I don't know. I think we're a little bit above a podcast, but you know what? The word podcast these days, I could go on a whole tangent about this, I think is overarching. So whatever. The podcast, tech gods, internet gods, please, no problems today. All right. Thank you. I've been praying to them all morning. Don't worry. That wasn't my sole prayer. But last week I felt horrible about what happened. And these things happen when you are doing a live show, especially online, streaming. These things are going to happen. And I appreciate your patience and your loyalty, as I said at the end of last week's show. But I'm in a good mood today. I am in a great mood today, my friends, because A, my beloved New York Knicks have just fired Derek Fisher. That is fantastic news. I am elated. Ooh, what a load off. So that's great. B, we had a fantastic weekend in Las Vegas. Thank you very much to everyone who voted for MMAfighting.com Media Source of the Year. Wow, what an honor. Really appreciate it. It was great to celebrate with some of my colleagues at MMA Fighting. Not all of them, not even half, not even 25%. But it was great to be there with Dave, Chuck, Esther, Casey. That was a lot of fun, and wish everyone could be there. We really appreciate you guys voting. Appreciate you voting for me as well. Thank you very much. That meant a lot. I do not take that for granted. So thank you to everyone who voted, and thank you to Fighters Only as well for putting on that show. And I got to be honest, I have been critical of that award show in the past. That was the best one. I think I've been to 6 of 8. I don't think they had a ceremony the first year. That was by far the best one. They've really figured out how to put it on. It was a lot of fun. Fun to see some familiar faces. They really did a nice job. I suggest checking it out next year. And I'm not just saying that because we won. I was sad the MMA Hour didn't win. But you know what? I kind of view this program, this podcast, if you will, as the little train that could. So just being nominated meant a lot. I appreciated that greatly. And I know the rest of us back there, including Mr. New York Rick, echo that sentiment. It was just nice to get that nod, but it's a really great time. If you're a fan going to a fight and it's on a Friday, Super Bowl weekend typically these days, I suggest checking it out. Plus, you get to meet all these fighters. Like, you just walk up to them. It's crazy. So I'm in a good mood because of that. Again, thank you. I got to meet the legendary Bill Steinmetz, who gave me that Las Vegas PD badge that you see on my computer. Bill Steinmetz, top bloke, one of our top fans, most loyal fans, great guy. He's the man. Photoshop whiz. I'm also in a good mood because for the first time since November, I get to be home for 2 weeks, 2 consecutive weeks. So that's very exciting. So there's a lot of excitement in the air. And we have a great show. We have a packed show. So much going on in the world of MMA. Wonderboy has arrived. We'll talk about UFC Fight Night 82. Bit of a break in the schedule this weekend, but we have a stacked program, my friends. Wow. A who's who. Beginning at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time, Henry Cejudo will stop by. He, as we found out on Saturday, will be facing Demetrius Johnson for the UFC flyweight title. UFC 197, April 23rd. They also announced Daniel Cormier versus John Jones. We'll have an update on the John Jones situation. You may have heard about that this morning. So we'll talk to Henry at 4:05. Yoel Romero will stop by in his first interview since it was announced that he has been provisionally suspended by USADA. He'll stop by with his manager, Makikawa, to explain where things stand right now. Rafael Dos Anjos will stop by. I think you may have heard of him. He is the UFC lightweight champion. He'll come on at 3:15 to talk about UFC 196, his fight against Conor McGregor, who stole the show at the awards, as he's been known to do, with an unbelievable acceptance speech. If you have not seen that, courtesy of one Jeremy Botter on his YouTube page, it was incredible. He was like some evil lord looking down upon the peasants. taking shots at Verdum, etc. 245, we'll talk to Chad Mendez, who's been pretty quiet since his loss to Frankie Edgar in December. 225, we'll talk to Alexander Gustafsson about his move to San Diego. Looking forward to having him on. 205, we'll talk to Michael Chandler. He has some news to share. 145, we'll talk to Eddie Alvarez, coming off his win over Anthony Pettis. Big win just a couple weeks ago. 125, we'll talk to Ben Rothwell, who's announced this morning he's fighting JDS in Zagreb, Croatia, April 10th. Sunday, April 10th, I might add. So there's a ton going on. As always, we want to hear from you. Hit us up using the hashtag #TheMMAHour. Leave a question or comment in the comment section below. We'll get your questions throughout the show, maybe not in one consecutive block. But as I said, a lot to get to. I even have an update on BJ Penn. All right, let's get into it. First off, let's go to the Skype machine and welcome in our first guest of the day. You know, he made headlines last week in Las Vegas because he was making his UFC debut, but also because he was also sort of covering the event. He was on the MMA beat. We interviewed him, and then after his fight against Mikey Gall on Saturday night, he joined the rest of the media on Media Row, even got some questions in at the press conference. There he is, Mike the Truth Jackson of thetruthjackson.com and also photographer Legacy FC. Oh, Mike the Truth. Why do I keep calling it thetruthjackson.com? It's mikethetruth.com.
There you go. The Twitter and Instagram is @thetruthjackson.
It's very complicated. Can't you just make it all the same?
I guess I could, but that would cost too much change. I have business cards and shirts and all that.
Well, now that you're some, big celebrity, it might be good to get it all under one name. You know what I mean?
I might have to do that.
Okay. Now, you're still in Las Vegas, right?
That's correct.
Why? Why didn't you get the heck out of there?
Man, I was enjoying it. Derek Lewis, my teammate, his birthday was yesterday. If you can look at his Instagram and social media, it was pretty live. Had to carry him out the club, and he's a big boy. But we just having fun out here, man. But I'm heading out today. I'm headed back home today.
Derek Lewis, by the way, since you brought him up, his celebration, without a doubt, the scariest, most intimidating celebration. When he gets down on that mat and starts like slamming it and gives you that look of death, that is frightening, my friend. Have you ever been on the receiving end of that? I know you're a lot smaller than him, but holy moly.
No, I've seen it up and close, in person. It is very scary. I was making fun of him a little bit. Last night we were all eating, watching the Super Bowl. And I was like, man, you have one of the longest celebrations. Like, he does the thing on the ground. He does the cutthroat. Then he jumps his big self up on the cage and he beats his chest. I'm like, dude, that's too much. We need to cut that down a little bit.
Yeah. Personally, I think that he should up the ante and keep going. It's getting him attention. Ride that baby. All of a sudden, he's a player at heavyweight. Good for him. Okay, let's talk about you. So you go into this fight, all eyes on Mikey Gall. You're essentially the opponent. Now, as I said, I thought you did a great job of selling yourself. You stole some headlines. But in the end, it was interesting. They're kind of celebrating. Like, Mikey Gall was the one that they wanted. He wins in impressive fashion. And now he gets to fight CM Punk. In retrospect, do you feel slighted? Did you feel like the stack was everything was stacked against you? The odds were against you, and everyone was kind of rooting for you to fail. And if so, does that make you feel a little funny?
In a way, I did, but again, it's a fight, so it is what it is, and it's a business, so I can't necessarily feel slighted by any of that. I win the fight. I felt good, felt great, no jitters or anything like that. Look, he caught me with a punch. I slipped, and he jumped on me. He did what he was supposed to do, and it just happened so quickly.
So you say no jitters, really? Like in the locker room, you're about to walk out to the octagon. Bruce Buffer is going to say your name, all that stuff. That didn't get you at all?
No, none of that. For me, I like being in the spotlight. I like the cameras on me. I obviously going to have nerves in the beginning because it's a fight. But there were no extra. Once I was in the cage or an octagon, waiting for Mickey to come out, the nerves really went away. I really can't explain it. It just, I felt comfortable in there.
So maybe did you underestimate Mickey? Was he better than you thought he would be?
No, I didn't underestimate him at all. He was a little longer than I thought. And again, the punch, it wasn't a punch where it hurt or anything like that. I slipped. My heel, I guess I wasn't used to the texture. The octagon's canvas is completely different than anything I've ever been on.
Wow.
Yeah, and look, I slipped, and again, he jumped on me, did what he did. I wasn't hurt at all. So I just take it for what it is.
Did you go in the cage beforehand? I sometimes see the fighters working out, getting a feel for the cage. Did you do that?
Yeah, I was able to get out there for a good like 2 minutes.
Ah,
They were trying to drug test me,
ah,
and I drank a bottle and a half of water, and it took probably about an hour for me to go pee.
wow.
And that took a lot of the time away from me trying to go out to the cage and get a feel of it and things like that. I was only able to get in there for literally about 2 minutes or so, and then I had to go back and get wrapped up.
Are they sitting in a stall as you're trying to urinate for an hour, or do you get to go back into the locker room and tell them when you're ready? Like, how does that process work?
Well, I went in the back, and the dude, he came in there with me, and I asked him, did he want to, come hold it for me?
Oh,
But
gosh. With the cup?
Yeah, well, I was gonna hold the cup, and he was gonna hold my penis,
Okay.
and gonna do the thing. But he objected to that, so I filled it up probably about 2/3 of the way, and then I just couldn't go anymore. And they were like, well, go like walk around and do some other stuff, and I was like, I'm okay, I'll try, and I did that. Literally, I paced back and forth for like an hour, and it never came. And then finally, I got dressed and put my fight kit on and stuff like that, and then drank another little bit of water, and finally it happened. But then by this time, they were like, look, we got to get you wrapped up. The card starts in like 30 minutes.
Right.
So everything was cutting it close.
So, out of curiosity, like, so if you pee in the cup and you don't reach the amount that you have to get to, so you said it was 2/3 of the cup, which obviously wasn't good enough, and then you have to go again, do you get to add to the same cup, or do you have to start a whole new batch?
No, I added to
Oh,
the
okay.
same.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
I was able to fill that other cup up if that was the case.
okay, and then, of course, the fight ended quickly. Like, does it feel – because, yeah, I saw you afterwards, and you had a smile on your face. You were doing the media thing. But does it feel like – and I know this was never an aspiration of yours. You kind of stumbled into this. You were very honest about that, and I think people appreciated it. But for it to last just 45 seconds, is there an empty feeling inside? How do you sort of digest how it all went down?
Right after the fight, I was fine. It didn't hit me until later that night around, I don't know, probably like midnight, 1 o'clock. We were at the after party, and it hit me that I actually competed in the UFC. Like, that part didn't register. I mean, from the signing to media day to the fight itself to
Wow.
after the fight, none of that registered until at the after party. I was like, dude, I fought in the UFC. And then, I mean, there were a lot of what ifs, and I'm the type of person that I don't like to dwell on the past, so to speak. But I'm really, even today, I woke up and I'm thinking about it. What could have happened if I would have maybe, circled a different way, or, if I would have threw this combo. But again, that's the past. I can't live in the past. I have to move forward from there and just, try to do something better now.
Did you ever get a response as to why the stipulation was just for him and not for you?
No, I never got the response. Well, I never asked the question, especially after I plan on, calling out
Sure.
Punk and doing these things in the octagon after. But once it was said and done, I didn't get the win. I figured, why do I even care,
Sure. I was wondering before the fight, of course. After the fact, it's a moot point. And then you decide to get dressed, very nicely dressed, and then you join the media on press row. Why did you decide to do that, not just go in the stands and take it all in?
I have ADD, so I'm all over, my brain is all over the
Okay.
place. I don't like just sitting still. I went in the back, and I spoke to Daniel. He and I spoke for a little bit. And then I wasn't even – crazy thing was I wasn't sweaty or anything like that, so it wasn't like I put on, my good clothes
Yeah.
on top of the sweat. Like, I had a little perspiration on my forehead. But got dressed, went back and had some delicious food. And then I figured, why not just go back and cover the fights? I mean, I'm going to watch them anyway.
Sure.
And actually, people asked me prior to the fight, was I going to do that? And I was like, I really don't know. But just being in that situation, I was just like, I might as well, I wanted to watch the fights anyway, so I may as well do it from press row.
Did I hear you say you spoke to Dana White?
Yes, I spoke to him for a little bit.
Yeah, what did he say to you?
Well, for me, it was I just wanted to get some things out there as far as on the media side, not necessarily the fight side, because again, there was no long-term goals with this run.
Sure.
So I wanted to sort of solidify myself on the media side. And because that's really what all this was about, is to help me get exposure, not just as a fighter, but as a media personality.
Yeah.
And I wanted to continue to build the brand. So I spoke with him one-on-one just so I can make sure that, I'm coming out to the UFC fights more often. My face is seen, and, there's going to be more coverage provided. And, he was cool with that. Lawler, I spoke with him as well, and he seemed happier than I was about the press row. He was like, this has never been done before. But it was I had a great time. This whole thing was a great experience.
So no regrets, nothing that you look back and say, I wish this was done differently towards me, that I did this. Like when you look back on the entire week, from when you got there, I believe on Tuesday till, now, how do you view it?
No, I mean, I looked at this whole situation as a win-win for me. Obviously a win in the fight would have been the extra, the bonus incentive. But this whole thing was a win-win. I have no regrets about it. Obviously, I would have loved to have gotten the win and to face CM Punk. But, it is what it is. So no regrets at all. I'm happy to be where I am. It seems like I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on social media. The followers continue to climb on Twitter and Instagram, and the likes are coming in on Facebook. So, I mean, it's fun, man, and I'm enjoying all of it.
Have you been released yet?
I haven't got the email yet.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably get it today or tomorrow or something.
Fair to say that you're expecting it?
I mean, I'm expecting it. Some people, they're calling for me to fight some other guys. Look, if they can get me in there with someone like Artem Levin or someone like that type of fighter, I'm happy to come back, and put on a great show. But outside of people like that, I mean, look, I'm going to go back to boxing, kickboxing, and, I'll fight on local, smaller MMA shows, Legacy and things like that.
Artem Levin, isn't he a kickboxer?
If that's what you want to call him, he just looks like
you're thinking of Artem Levin, like the Glory guy. You mean Artem Lobov?
Not Artem Levin. I'm sorry.
I was like Artem Levin.
Artem
Lobov, yeah.
Yes, someone like that. My apologies.
Wow. So you think you could take him?
Someone like that, yeah, man. I mean, dude, he's a brawler. I love those kinds of fights.
Fair enough. He actually fought.
I'm not worried about Artem trying to take me down either. So
right. But just for the record, Artem Levin may be a little soon for him, right?
Yeah. Not looking at Artem Levin.
Yes. Okay. So now that you've been in there with Mickey, do you think he beats Punk? Obviously, Punk is a big unknown, but what do you think?
I think Mickey takes him out in the first round.
Oh wow.
I can't see CM Punk or Phil Brooks. I'm going to call him Phil Brooks. I can't call him dude CM Punk.
Okay, well, let me ask you about that. How do you call the man who will be fighting Dada 5000 in your neck of the woods on February 19th? What do you call him?
Duffer or whatever.
No. What do you call the man who will be fighting Dada 5000? What do you call him?
Of course.
What do you call him?
Call him Kimbo.
Well, there you go. What's the difference? Why don't you call him Kevin Ferguson?
I actually, when I first found out about it, I didn't even know his name. I really thought his name was Kimbo.
Yeah, right. That's the greatest name of all time, if true, but it's not. Okay, fair enough. Go back to your prediction.
No, I think it's a first round finish for Mickey. It's just, look, Phil, he can train with these guys for as long as possible. The wear and tear that he's had on his body from professional wrestling, I just don't see him advancing. There are people like BJ Penn who's come out and, received their black belt in 3 years and things like that. I don't see him as being that type of athlete, and definitely doesn't have that type of fighter IQ. There's nothing. I don't believe in lucky punches and things like that. But, that's all he really has is a puncher's chance to sort of close his eyes and to throw a wild shot. I don't see him being able to take Mickey down and submit him or especially on the hands. His striking is horrible.
You've seen it?
I've seen the little pad work video.
Okay.
And look, I could, even if I were in a situation where I was trying to make myself look bad, I couldn't do that to make myself look bad. Like, that's how bad it is. I couldn't fake that.
I said it in our post-fight wrap-up. I said, I'm going out on a limb. There's something about Mikey Gall, and I know he's only 2-0, and he hasn't had a ton of competition. I feel like this kid is going to be around. I feel like he has aspirations well beyond CM Punk. He's taking it seriously. Solid team. You know, he's not just some guy working out of a or training out of a strip mall. I feel like he has it in him. What do you think?
No, I do. I mean, and he's young. He's only 23, so he has a bright future ahead of him. As long as, you know, he's sort of brought up the correct way.
Sure.
You know, he's not going out here and calling out, you know, top 10, top 15 guys. He's brought along the proper way. He comes in here, he defeats Punk. I mean, you're going to have to give him someone with, you know, not a lot of fights, you know, maybe 4 fights, 5 fights, someone early on. Or maybe someone on the outs getting ready to get cut in the UFC to have maybe 1 or 2 fights left. But as long as he stays, you know, mentally sharp, he continues to hone his skills and doesn't get too ahead of himself, you know, by trying to get these bigger names and bigger fights, then I feel he does well and he has a bright future.
All right, so let's talk about the big news on Saturday in that same division, in your division. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I'm still blown away by what he did. I mean, that to me was one of the greatest one-round performances in a main event against a former champion. That was Holly Holm Ronda-esque, but he was able to finish Hendricks in the first. I mean, what he did to he embarrassed Johny Hendricks. What he did was unbelievable. Do you share my my sentiments here? I'm still blown away.
I was completely blown away. I was sitting there watching it live. I was in awe of his performance. You know, Johny Hendricks, he comes in here, this sort of resurges Johny Hendricks 2.0. He has a nutritionist. You know, he looked good at weigh-ins with the weight cut and things like that. So people asked me about it, you know, what did I think? And I was just like, look, I don't know, you know, because Stephen Thompson, you know, he's a ninja, man. He was doing some beautiful things out there in the octagon. But then again, you didn't know what we were going to see from the new Johny Hendricks. He blew me away. You know, he was the techniques he was using, and Johny Hendricks had nothing for him.
Joe Silva afterwards, we were talking briefly, called it a work of art, and really that's what it was. It was the finest example of mixed martial arts that you can see, martial arts that you can see inside the octagon. And now the big question is, like, all of a sudden, you know how these things go. Guy gets a big win on a big stage. He gets a lot of momentum behind him, and people are saying, okay, title shot. If you're Joe Silva, do you book Robbie Lawler versus Wonderboy? Do you go with Tyron Woodley? What do you do?
What is his streak right now? What's the winning streak that he has
for Wonderboy?
Yes,
I believe it's 6 in a row.
Man, that's tough to call. But again, you do have Tyron Woodley sitting there, kind of waiting in the wings. He wants his shot as well. I guess you maybe play it out to see who's sort of ready. You know. I ran into Tyron a little bit of weigh-ins. He looked good. He looked ready to go. So who knows? But it's hard to negate the performance that Wonderboy had. I mean, it was almost a flawless victory. I don't know if Hendricks actually laid a strike on him.
I'd love to see the UFC push him a little more. He's got such a great personality. Appears to be squeaky clean, and he is like a superhero, as you said. He's like a ninja. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's like a cartoon character. I feel like there's a lot of momentum behind him now, and let's not forget, Tyron Woodley hasn't fought in a year. You know, he was supposed to fight Hendricks. Unfortunately for him, he didn't get the fight. Wonderboy gets the fight, beats Hendricks. Man, he's got a strong case. I still feel like if GSP wants to come back, he'll get the shot first, but I wonder if now Wonderboy has jumped over Tyron Woodley.
Don't please look. I love GSP.
Yeah,
I definitely don't want to see him come back. He has nothing else to prove.
I know. But they're going to try to get him back. They want him back. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, I mean, let him. I don't give him. You're going to give him an immediate shot when he comes back. I don't know.
I feel like they want him for UFC 200. They need a big name for UFC 200. There's no Ronda Rousey.
You have Phil Brooks and Mikey Gall.
Oh, you think that's big enough? Would you do that fight at UFC 200? Or would you put it on one of the other shows to build that one up? Because 200 sells itself.
But you have to have a name. I mean, yeah, it does sell itself, but you can't have Johny Hendricks and Wonderboy at 200.
No, of course not.
Okay, right. You have to have a name, and Phil Brooks is going to bring that name with CM Punk. So you might as well put him and Mikey Gall on 200.
All right, we'll see. Punk said he wants that. Okay, final thing for you. What's next? What's next for Mike Jackson? What do you do now?
Look, I'm getting back. I'm putting my media hat back on.
Yes.
You know, I have Bellator. Not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend in Houston.
Yep.
And you know, just nothing. I'm not hurt or anything like that. No injury sustained, so I'm definitely getting back in the gym. I'll probably take a few days off just to indulge a little bit in some food because, that's my favorite.
Sure.
So I'm going to do that a little bit. But as far as fighting, I'm definitely looking forward to some boxing and kickboxing and, possibly some MMA this summer.
All right. Well, it was fun, my man. You handled it well. You took it in stride, and I think you definitely made what was somewhat of a subpar event a little more fun for us media guys who have been covering this for a long time. It's nice when something out of the ordinary sort of comes out of nowhere, out of left field, and that's what you and Mickey provided, and you did a fantastic job. So kudos to you, my man. Great to have you on the program. Great to do the beat with you last week. You did a phenomenal job, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me, Ariel.
All right, there he is. Mike the Truth Jackson of the MikeTheTruth.com website. I got it right, finally. And also photographer for Legacy FC. Fun stuff from him. And now he can go back to being an underappreciated and lowly media member.